Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's me. It's the GOC. Coming to you live to tape 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Here for another special episodic YouTube adventure on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. Here for Chaos Corner. It's another edition of Story Time. Sit back and relax, grab a beverage, grab a snack, drop an elbow on that like button, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Get us into the algorithm. And YouTube, this is for you. And you still owe me over 1K. I'm still in the process of appealing, and I won't stop until I get what you owe me. Just a little side note here on Chaos Corner. Chapter 12, Wrestlemania. Longtime Houston promoter Paul Bosch was first lured into the business as a grappler in 1932 by Jack Pfeffer, a man who knew talent when he saw it. In the years that followed, he toured North America, facing the best in the business and became a fine journeyman. After serving distinctly during World War II, Bosch resumed his career only to suffer serious injuries in a car accident in 1947 near San Antonio. Bosch gave up his active wrestling career to focus on announcing, refereeing, and booking matches in Texas. By that juncture, the native New Yorker now had the Lone Star State in his blood, and Bosch made Houston his permanent home. In the 1960s, Bosch assumed control of the Houston office and had good relations with the NWA and AWA officials. He broke off his long-standing trade agreement with Jack Atkinson, aka Fritz Von Erich, in 1981, cutting off appearances by the Von Erichs. But Bosch didn't miss a beat. Despite not having a booking office of his own, he remained an influential player because of his partnership with Bill Watts and the Mid-South Group. Bosch focused on giving Houston fans a professional operation, and the strength of Watts' roster kept enthusiasts happy. Cards featured Magnum TA, Butch Reed, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, Jim Duggan, and Steve Williams, among others. And Houston never seemed to be at a loss for great matches. That's for sure. If you go back and look at your research and do your due diligence, you will find out how awesome that Houston area was. Didn't have his own booking office. I don't even know if it was its own territory, but it certainly was its own city. And that's why you come here to learn things, facts, history. So you're better off when you walked out of here than when you fucking walked in. So you can hold an actual conversation and know what the fuck you're talking about. Whether it be at the next barbecue, family gathering, outing, whether you go to a venue for a show, the water cooler, at your workplace with your friends, your family. I don't know where you hang out, man. But that's the whole point of being here on this channel. Focus Chaos. Thanks for being here on a Sunday. But as 1984 passed, Bosch and Watts had to deal with the WWF as superstars of wrestling debuted in several of Watts' key cities. Breaking ground in Texas, Titan Sports secured TV outlets on two independent stations owned by Grant Broadcasting, Channel 20, KTXH in Houston, and Channel 21 KTXA in Dallas-Fort Worth. The WWF made its first live appearance in Houston on December 27, 1984, with a Dallas program scheduled for the next morning. I hope your notebooks are out. In preparation for the WWF's arrival, Bosch and Atkinson put their past grievances aside and, along with Watts, arranged a defense. They planned to directly compete against McMahon in both Houston and Dallas and booked several recent cast-offs from the WWF. Billy Jack, Kamala, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. In Houston, Butch Reed won a massive two-ring battle royal, and Kerry Von Erich beat Gino Hernandez, while Hernandez went over Kevin Von Erich in Dallas. As for the WWF, they offered their B lineup with Andre the Giant, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, and Big John Studd, drawing under 3,000 people in each city. Let that marinate. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. The WWF's A players included Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, the JYD, and Jimmy Snuka were in St. Louis on December 27th before returning to New York for a huge spectacle the next night. The show sold out Madison Square Garden and the adjoining Felt Forum. Wow. And that's over 20,000, 21,000. Ignore that person behind the curtain over there who's talking in the background. No sell it. Kayfabe, if you will, because you know I have heat with this mechanical AI bitch, right? No offense, man. Kayfabe, well, what I say. I'm the boss here on this channel. That show sold out, as I said, Madison Square Garden and the Felt Forum, which is well over 20,000 people. Hogan pinned the former World Wrestling Federation champ, the Iron Sheik, in the main event. JYD, Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, and Antonio Inoki won singles matches, and a tag bout between Piper and Bob Orton Jr. against Snuka and the Tonga Kid ended in a double DQ. There were two other happenings of note, and the first was clearly scripted. Cyndi Lauper returned to the WWF and buried the hatchet with Captain Lou Albano, giving him a gold record for helping raise money for the charity. Piper wasn't caught up in the sentimentality of the moment and ended up breaking the record over Albano's head. He also hurled Lauper to the ground and slammed her manager, David Wolf. The whole rock and wrestling connection was coming together. And of course, with MTV involved, with the war to settle the score, the brawl to settle it all, there was no better time for the WWF. And certainly back in that day of the territories, the NWA, the AWA, World Class Championship Wrestling, the WWF, all the different territories from the Mid-South to the Carolinas to Mid-Atlantic to Florida Championship Wrestling. It really was a sight to behold. The other occurrence at the Garden took place backstage, out of the view of the crowd, and to this day, there is still conjecture about whether it was all spontaneous or pre-planned. Reporter John Stossel was at the event doing a story on pro wrestling for ABC's news magazine, 2020. What a piece of garbage that is. He went in for an interview with reputed heel Dr. D. David Schultz, who was in no mood for games. Stossel asked about the veracity of wrestling, and the 6'4" grappler proceeded to slap him twice in the head. From Stossel's point of view, it was a genuine attack, but there was question whether Schultz's actions were part of a purposeful attempt to garner media attention. Now, I have Schultz's book right here in the vault at Chaos Chronicles. Don't call me fake. That wasn't a work. That happened for a reason, and Schultz sent a message, and the McMahon stabbed him in the back. I mean, that's just the facts. I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly here. You guys know that. As I said earlier, one man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. If you believe that any publicity was good publicity, then this idea was a winner. But looking at the ramification of the incident for Schultz, Stossel, and the wide reputation of pro wrestling, the entire episode was a major catastrophe. For his actions, Schultz was suspended by the New York State Athletic Commission. fined $3,000, and less than 2 months later was let go by the WWF. Stossel suffered hearing damage to both ears and received a six-figure settlement from the WWF. Wrestling was hammered by the national media, with pundits wondering if it was too violent. Disgruntled ex-wrestlers such as Eddie Mansfield joined in the condemnation, discussing how matches were predetermined in the practice of blading. The Schultz-Stossel incident wasn't the only costly out-of-the-ring miscue to hit Titan Sports in early 1985. Hulk Hogan appeared on the cable talk show Hot Properties and demonstrated a front chinlock on host Richard Belzer. The maneuver caused Belzer to lose consciousness, and his full body fell headfirst onto the studio floor, causing a head injury. This situation also triggered a lawsuit, with financial settlement favorable to the victim, Belzer. It was negative press all the way, and everyone wanted to forget these incidents ever happened. Now, at this time, 85, I'm 22, 23 years old. Just to give you a time frame of where I was in 1985. Where were you in 1985? Were you still in your daddy's nutsack? Did you hit the sheets? Were you dripping down his leg? I mean, no offense, man. Lighten up. This is an extravaganza, a bonanza. This isn't a fucking podcast. This is a show. Remember that. A show within a show. In December 1984, the World Wrestling Federation was active in 15 previously off-limits territories and was currently battling opposition in 11 of them, demonstrating the turbulence of the times. One thing was becoming apparent for the World Wrestling Federation, though, and that was that the big-name talent alone wasn't going to sustain the box office in the newly forged regions. Booking patterns left a lot to be desired, as the undercards of arena shows often appeared to have been arranged in slipshod fashion, kind of like in today's product. Good guys were pitted against bad guys with no further rhyme or reason. And to make things worse, it was typically one-name wrestler paired with a preliminary level worker, only diminishing the importance of even more. The finishes were painfully predictable. Kind of like one of today's top promotions. Some would say the second promotion in the world. What'd I say? With all the superstars on the roster, enthusiasts expected better in-ring action. In a lot of cases, they just weren't getting it. So after the initial excitement wore off, and Hogan and the other leading stars made their initial impression, there wasn't much left to speak about. In the battleground cities, a disappointed wrestling fan could cross town very easily the next time and watch the competition instead. For the WWF to keep them coming back, it had to improve its TV to arena booking and ensure there was not only basis for the matches at the top of the card, but up and down the bill as well. Matchmaker George Scott took on a larger role in 1984 to improve on these deficiencies. Again, pay no attention to that man in the background. I'm going to slap the shit out of him after this is over. Trust me, I'm going to unplug him or her or whatever the fuck it is. With incredible charisma, high flyers, and skilled scientific grapplers, he just had to get the pieces into the correct positions and establish a sound game plan for a few months at a time. I hear voices in my head. Do you hear them, or is it just me? Generally, the WWF was doing many things right, and the organization operated with heightened professionalism. At the arena, there was the odd no-show, but nothing like the problems Vern Gagne had in the AWA. Oh, boy. If a fan comes to see Hulk Hogan and he isn't on the card, we give him his money back, explained Ed Cohen, a Titan sports official in late 1984. We make sure nobody goes home feeling cheated. Even if a fan favorite lost in the main event, they were usually put back over with a little post-match revenge or time to pose in the ring. practices that continue to this day after live shows go off the air. Back in the Northeast, McMahon's home territory, the WWF had long maintained a sense of community, particularly in smaller towns. The World Wrestling Federation worked hand in hand with local groups and was generous in donating funds from special events to charity. In this transitional area, it was extraordinary to hear Howard Finkel's voiceover promotions of WWF stars at high school gyms on WOR TV. But that was the nature of the business. As the years passed, Vince McMahon put an end to the school gym era. As for WOR TV, it was reported that McMahon was paying the station as much as $5,000 a week for television time in 1984, up from $1,700 a few years before. Compensating stations was a commonplace practice for Titan Sports, and it was costing the company a fortune. If you take just 3 stations, that's right, 3 stations from the vast WWF empire, WOR, New York, KHJ in Los Angeles, and KSTU in Salt Lake City, the combined payment schedule for a year accounted to almost $500,000. The WWF had somewhere between 90 and 100 stations, and though they weren't paying every one of them, it was still a huge amount to invest across North America. But the local promotion was translating into serious earnings in many markets. To use the example of Los Angeles in the WWF, it made a minimum net profit of $40,000 at the gate for 10 shows a year. It would earn approximately $400,000. The annual cost of TV on KHJ was $130,000. Of course, there was a tremendous overhead, but a strong box office could pay sizable dividends. In some cases, Titan Sports offered their program to a station free of cost and gave the operator 7 of the 12 minutes set aside for commercial sports. Good idea. The station would then sell that time to local businesses to make a good profit without spending a dime. Titan kept the remaining commercial time for their national advertisers. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement, and TV station sales departments easily sold advertising during WWF broadcasts, thanks to the important demographic that it reached. It's all about demographics. The major deals Titan made with national advertisers brought in a lot of income for the company and easily offset the original production costs for its television operations. I hope you guys are learning something. I hope your notebooks are still out. Finally, the extended promos individualized for each market drew fans to the arenas where Titan Sports made its real money. Hello? McFly? Is anybody home? Do you hear that? That's what happens when you go old school here. No editing, no music, no graphics, no green screen. What you see is what you get. I know you guys got to hear that. On the cable TV side of things, the WWF's relationship with WTBS out of Atlanta remained contentious through the end of 1984 and into 1985. The problems began when Vince McMahon decided to use out-of-town footage for his 2 weekend telecasts inside of holding full tapings at the WTBS studios like his predecessor. McMahon spliced in interview footage from WTBS, but it just wasn't up to par in the eyes of the station owner, Jed Turner, who wanted the same commitment Georgia Championship Wrestling had given him since the 1970s. But McMahon was intent on doing things his way, and there the issues began. Over time, 2 other problems arose. First, Turner believed the ratings for World Championship Wrestling and the Best of World Championship Wrestling should have been higher, though both shows were in the top 5 highest shows on cable. Additionally, Turner and other station officials didn't like that McMahon worked so closely with one of its main rivals, the USA Network. Needless to say, USA was equally peeved about the WWF being on WTBS and MTV. Stand by, fans, stand by, because I'm getting tired of this horseshit. Alexa, off. This way we don't have to put up with this. Stand by. Don't go anywhere. We're only 20 minutes in. This is interesting material. I hope you enjoy it. It's a temporary distraction, a much-needed stress reliever. The death of the territories. We're on Chapter 12, Wrestlemania. Sugar-free Red Bull. Bing, bing, bing. And no, they're not a sponsor, an advertiser, because all of my sponsors and advertisers have literally kicked me to the curb. I'm picking tar out of my ass. So this is for the sponsors and advertisers. It's all good. I'm going to do this regardless. Remember that. And you know who you are. And you know that I know who you are. Focus Chaos. Where were we? Well, Best of World Championship Wrestling. The ratings should have been higher. USA Network, WWF on TBS and MTV. Let's backtrack. Let's move forward to go ahead and backwards to go forward. Whatever the fuck it is I'm talking about. Are you out there watching? Austin, are you here? Jen? David T? Hooligram? Midmo Smark? Funny Rob, a.k.a. Hoodie Rob Bay, Scripps Wrestling Federation, Kratos, Future, Hollywood, Comic Book Bob, Johnny, Rick Del Santo, Chi-Town Smark, DT, Wrestling Soup, JD from Off the Script. Are you guys here? Leave a comment. Say something. Whether you're in the premiere chat or you're watching the replay. The difficulties between the WWF and WTBS didn't stop there. Apparently, Titan wanted to run commercial advertisement that it had obtained independently during the broadcasts, but WTBS blocked them from doing so. The station was paying the promotion a production fee and wasn't interested in sharing commercial time. They compromised by offering the WWF commercial time at a reduced rate, which could be resold to advertisers. Whether it's independently or the major leagues, advertising and sponsors are huge. That's how you'll gain success. Coming out of your own pocket, good luck with that. Just telling it like it is. McMahon agreed, and the matter was seemingly settled. They compromised by offering the WWF commercial time at a reduced rate, which I said, which could be resold to advertisers, as I backtrack. And McMahon agreed, and it was seemingly settled. But you know Vince, that's good shit, pal. But in early 85, WTBS officials insisted that the WWF became exclusive and drop affiliation with the USA Network. McMahon declined. In response, station officials eliminated the discounted commercial time and began charging the full rate. Under the circumstances, the long-term connection between the two entities appeared to be in doubt. In contrast, USA Network officials, aside from the WTBS issue, had always been happy with the WWF. McMahon's promotion was featured 3 nights a week, encompassing 4.5 hours of content. Now it's what, one, two, 3 nights a week, not counting PLEs, pay-per-views, and what is it, 3, 6, 7, 8 hours? You want to throw in pay-per-views, 12 hours, just to show you the difference in times here in 2025? Wow, talk about ratings and money. McMahon's promotion was featured 3 nights a week, as I said. The last, encompassing 4.5 hours of content. We know now it's like 12 hours. And was the highest rated program on the network. The last 6 months have been incredible, said Mark Braff, director of communications for the USA Network in early 1985. It wasn't that long ago that people would watch wrestling on television and not talk about it in the next day at work. Now, if you don't watch it and can't talk about it, the next day you're not chic. It has actually become mainstream. Like here in 2025, a $5 billion deal with Netflix. Also still on USA Network. On what you would consider a prime channel in certain areas, the CW Network. Not to mention the $100 billion whatever deal it is with Saudi Arabia. It really is incredible. And then throw in AEW with Max and TBS and TNT. It really is incredible how much wrestling is on. And if you want to talk about TNA Impact and MLW and the NWA and New Japan and Ring of Honor and CMLL and AAA, which all have been bought out, and who knows what's going to happen next. I mean, it literally is oversaturation. And then throw in the independents, which are the backbone of this fucking industry, the backbone of this business. It's literally like the territorial system. There's shows every weekend, even on Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. In every town, city, state, region, county, country around the world, the United States, Japan, Mexico, Canada. It's incredible for something that's supposed to be predetermined. Sports entertainment. How about that? McMahon's multifaceted expansion campaign was working. He was increasing physical ground in terms of his wrestling circuit, boosting his television reach through basic cable and syndicated TV, enlarging his talent roster, and strengthening the international awareness of the WWF as an entertainment company, which kind of ruined the business, if you ask me. Vince is just doing what everyone else wanted to do, explained Red Bastien, a West Coast agent for the WWF and a Hall of Famer and quite the legend himself in the ring. It's like lots of other things. One time there used to be a lot of small farms with 20 acres or 40 acres. Then the co-ops came in and bought them up. Look at the oil companies and the food stores. They buy up the little ones, the mom and pop. And boy, is that true in 2025. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. Stay mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually fit. Use your own discernment. Surround yourself with like-minded people. And that's a shoe. Because if he's for us, no one could be against us. Without him, none of this would be possible. And you know what I'm talking about. So back to what Red Bastien was saying, he was right on the money, and especially here 40 years later. Wrestling isn't any different from those companies that we just talked about. Farms. I mean, it's the truth. Look at the big box companies and what's happening. I mean, it couldn't be more prophetic. They buy up the little ones. Wrestling isn't any different. And wrestling is big time again. It's reached a new height because of Vince's marketing genius. Vince says he doesn't have enemies. They do. And remember the time frame here. We're going back to the middle 80s. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Let's roll on. Let's continue here. Because you never know when we're going off the air, when we're getting cut off, or how I'm going to end the show. And that's why you're here. That's what makes you come back. We're only 30 minutes in. Don't go anywhere. They're mad at me because now they have to work for a living, McMahon told Sports Illustrated in 1985. In an interview with the Associated Press, he explained, "You've always had that territoriality. Say that three times fast. This is some carryover from the old era into what we're doing now. We've encountered some difficulty in some markets. Attendance was lower than anticipated in a few areas, causing McMahon to reanalyze his approach. But on the whole, he was seeing great success. It's just become a real phenomenon," said Larry Robinson, the box office manager at the Anaheim Convention Center. "TV's what's making it. The TV people have figured out what the American people are watching, and they've caused it to happen. They're causing it to happen. We had 9,000 seats for wrestling in February of 1985, and we filled them all. Demographics," McMahon told the LA Times, "they're simply incredible. Although ours are beyond what an MTV might be." MTV was great in the early and middle 80s. The advent of MTV, it's total garbage now. They have their own personal agenda. All you got to do is watch it, and you'll know what the fuck I'm talking about. Ours are about the 18 to 40, and 40% of that is women, kind of like here on this channel, where almost 35% of you watching are women. Guys, if you're not here on this channel watching this program, I don't know what the fuck what you're doing. I don't know what to tell you. All you geeks and goons and neckbeards and mouth breathers and virgins, and no offense, man, with the brain of a dehydrated baby. I mean, take a shower, touch a pair of tits, go out and touch some grass, and go stack marbles on the freeway. I mean, do something. Yeah, some of those sayings are mine, some others aren't. But I took them anyway. Really, what we're trying to do is put pro wrestling in the proper vehicle so that professional people will feel it's all right to enjoy it. I've always maintained that our demographics are a broad-based Americana. Much different now with the influences of Japan and especially Mexico and lucha libre here in the States. So it is different. Talking back here in 1985. I don't think it's a question of America suddenly awakening to a new phenomenon. They're awakening to a new level of it. In Los Angeles, the WWF's 10 hours of television every weekend was certainly building and helping its case. As amazing as that was, McMahon still wasn't done trying to enhance his TV operations, specifically looking at a possible network deal as well as advertising into pay-per-view. By early 1985, those two goals were much more than a distant thought. They were really close to becoming a reality. And if you know your history and do your due diligence, you'll know what I'm talking about. I lived it, so I know what I'm talking about. On the commercial broadcasting end of things, the WWF was attracting substantial attention, the most since the late 1940s when televised pro wrestling first captured the public's imagination. On March 17th, 1985, Sports World did a feature episode on grappling. That same month, Vince McMahon had a high-profile interview on Late Night with David Letterman. March 28th, 1985. Again, I hope your notebooks are out. And Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, co-star of the A-Team, hosted Saturday Night Live March 30th, 1985. All four programs were on NBC, and it was apparent there was a budding relationship between the network and the WWF. Officials soon began preliminary talks for a joint venture, and the return of pro wrestling to network TV appeared to be just around the corner. Meanwhile, the WWF's media buzz in February and March of 1985 was building toward the organization's biggest program to date, Wrestlemania. Seeing that we just came out of Wrestlemania 41, I'm 20 years older than WrestleMania. Let that sink in. WrestleMania One, the original, scheduled for March 31st, 1985 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Like Jim Crockett's Starrcade or Jack Atkinson's Star Wars, WrestleMania was billed as a one of a kind spectacle highlighting the very best of the organization. That was absolutely true. But McMahon was ready to take the concept of a super show to an entirely new plateau. He lined up celebrities like Muhammad Ali, Billy Martin, Liberace, played up the rock and wrestling angle again with Cyndi Lauper, and launched a massive media campaign to hype WrestleMania everywhere. McMahon and his staff arranged an extensive array of closed-circuit television venues across the country and also stepped into the realm of pay-per-view for the very first time. Pay-per-view, which gave fans the ability to watch live events from the comfort of their own homes, was in its infancy and only a few cable outlets were offering the service. But pay-per-view was definitely the wave of the future, and McMahon was on the ground floor. How did that turn out 40 years later? Pretty fucking good, I'd say. In the main event of WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T beat Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, thrilling the 19,000 fans in attendance. Andre the Giant won over Big John Studd in a special body slam bout for $15,000. Studd was managed by Bobby Heenan, a recent major signee from the AWA. Pretty impressive, the brain on my Mount Rushmore of managers. Junkyard Dog won by countout over Intercontinental Champion Greg Valentine. And fan favorites Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, the U.S. Express, dropped their tag team belts to Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. Cameraman zoom! In addition, the show featured a handful of newcomers, King Kong Bundy and manager Jimmy Hart among them. But the real surprise was Ricky Steamboat, a longtime employee of Jim Crockett who debuted for McMahon earlier in March. Steamboat was a major addition to the promotion and a blow to the NWA at the same time. WrestleMania established a new benchmark for pro wrestling extravaganzas, and the bar was raised in each subsequent year. In the weeks leading up to the first WrestleMania, a lot of uncertainty surrounded the event, with questions of whether it would achieve the kind of success needed for Titan Sports to meet its heavy financial obligations. In fact, McMahon was gambling, throw the dice, baby, with the future of his company by putting all of his eggs into one basket. And if the venture failed, allegedly, Titan was likely facing bankruptcy. The public was unaware of the financial realities. But insiders had been wondering about the WWF's ability to maintain its enormous operating costs for a while. It was rumored that Titan took a heavy financial loss in 1984 and its spending far exceeded its income. McMahon's financial resources had been a mystery to pundits and his opposition since the wrestling war began. Wrestling insiders were amazed by the depth of his pockets as he acquired new TV outlets and talent, and his WrestleMania investment only added to the whispers. The Northeastern Wrestling Circuit was known as the biggest moneymaker of all the territories, and Vince McMahon Sr. had been considered one of the richest promoters in the business. There was speculation that McMahon Sr. had bequeathed his son millions of dollars, and it was that fortune that McMahon Jr. was using to expand the WWF. But the truth was he was doing it all on his own without a grand inheritance, and by WrestleMania, he was deeply in debt, allegedly. Titan Sports, however, wasn't destined for failure, and McMahon showed shrewd maneuvering saved his company from financial insolvency. A timely payment from Antonio Inoki's New Japan Pro Wrestling as compensation for WWF stars appearing for the latter's promotion in Asia was of considerable help, Konnichiwa, bitches. Arigato from the Chaos-san. In recent months, things in that part of the world had become quite sticky when Hisashi Shinma, who recently passed away, I believe, a matchmaker for Inoki, broke off and formed his own company, the UWF. Shinma had been acknowledged as the figurehead president of the WWF prior to Jack Tunney, and after breaking off relations with Inoki, he wanted to take his WWF ties with him. Inoki didn't want to relinquish his lengthy association with McMahon, and ultimately a new six-figure deal was signed that maintained the status quo. McMahon worked out another deal involving his WTBS contract, adding to the economic lifeblood of his company at a crucial time. With Jim Barnett as a mediator, he agreed to sell the TBS time slots and production contracts to Jim Crockett Promotions for $1 million. Said to have made $500,000 on the transaction, McMahon didn't walk away from Atlanta completely. He secured placement for the WWF on WAGA-TV and held local shows at the Omni Coliseum through July. Although the money garnered from New Japan and JCP was significant, McMahon wasn't on the losing side of Wrestlemania. The event grossed in the neighborhood of $4 to $6 million. Though the total was inflated to $12 million in media reports. And if we go by today's money in 2025 and the inflation calculator, 4 to 6 million, 12 million, whatever it is, you can double, almost triple that in today's money. So what, anywhere from 20 to 30 million dollars in 1985? For McMahon, the good news kept pouring in. NBC came to terms for a pilot episode of Saturday night's main event. Wow. Replacing Saturday Night Live on May 11th, 1985. And if successful, additional programs were possible later in the year. The pre- and post-show coverage for WrestleMania, combined with news that wrestling was returning to network TV, gave the WWF incredible national publicity. Arena managers, television executives, insiders, and even the wrestlers themselves were taking notice of the unparalleled heights McMahon had reached. But not everyone was thrilled. That's for sure. Veteran sports writer Bob Brogue called WrestleMania the worst thing to hit wrestling since Gorgeous George in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He believed that Lou Thez, at 60 years old, probably could beat the show business bums of the day, and stated maybe if Sam Mushnick had stayed on the job, Vince McMahon's boy wouldn't have muscled in from Broadway. Many wondered how Mushnick, who left the business in 1982, would have dealt with McMahon's rise, and if he still had been at the helm of the NWA. Having turned 79 in August of 1984, Mushnick remained interested in the sport and watched the closed-circuit feed of WrestleMania at the Kiel Auditorium. Later, he admitted that he'd received overtures from various circles to return to his old job. I didn't like the style in the ring these days, he explained, such as the knocking down of referees and fights breaking out outside the ring. Both elements were commonplace in the WWF, to quote Sam Mushnick. Nick Roberts, who promoted in West Texas for years, maintained that Texas-style pro wrestling was more serious and sportsmanlike than what McMahon had to offer. To me, what he's doing is a bizarre kind of thing, Roberts said. It's like he's making wrestling a burlesque nationally. But then he plays to huge metropolitan areas. The tempo of living and the way of life is completely different. George Cannon, a WWF affiliate promoter in Detroit, praised McMahon as a businessman, but wasn't blown away by the sensationalism and gimmicks. Personally, I don't like it, he explained, but I understand their reasoning. Former multi-time world champion Killer Kowalski said it best in a 1985 article in the Burlington Free Press. The bottom line is money. And if something works and will make money, I say do it. I give all the credit to Vince for the surge of the WWF. He's done it himself. But like many of his colleagues, Kowalski preferred the old style. I think that people want to see wrestling, he said, to quote Killer Kowalski. And you know my relationship to Kowalski, being here in the greater New England tri-state Northeast area and the shadows of Titan Towers. Was fortunate enough to actually be in the ring with Killer. I took his double axe handle. Rest in peace, Killer. A true inspiration in this sport. The chains are getting heavy. We're 40 minutes in here. We're ready to wrap up. Don't go anywhere yet. 45 minutes in. Kowalski went on to say they want to see holds, moves, and punches. Action is what they're looking for. I can remember wrestling Bruno Sammartino for an hour once. I had a 90-minute match with Lou Thez in Houston. I was exhausted after that. It just kept going and going and going. None of the matches last 2, 3, 4 minutes. And now, what the hell is that? Sometimes they have a long match and it goes 8 minutes. There's nothing involved there. There's no wrestling going on, and that's what the people are paying to see. Washington Times journalist Dan Cox wrote, the WWF is beginning to look more and more like a circus and less like a wrestling organization. It's a sham, right? It's not only a sham, it's a shame the Three Stooges aren't alive today. They would fit in perfect in the WWF. The editor for Inside Wrestling, Max Rottersman, told a reporter in 1985, in the long run, I think the WWF is going to fall flat on its face. Boy, were you fucking wrong on that one, for sure, Max. In the long run, you definitely were wrong. They do the oddest things. With one hand, they're doing a lot for themselves, but with the other hand, they're taking it away. Alliance promoters wanted to reassure fans that real pro wrestling was still alive, and well, Mr. T and rock singer Cyndi Lauper were used by the WWF to go get them national attention. Henry Robinson, an NWA affiliate promoter, told the Cleveland Plain Dealer they also used Muhammad Ali and Liberace at Wrestlemania with the idea that they draw more people. What they've done is wrong. You won't catch the NWA using singers and actors to get attention. Well, they ended up using country singers for the Great American Bash Tour, that's for sure. So wrong again, El Rongo, as my Spanish-speaking friends would say. Fans come to pro wrestling matches to see wrestling, and using an actor like Mr. T in a wrestling match isn't fair to wrestling fans. You know, most of the WWF wrestlers, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper included, were once with the NWA. Hogan is a very muscular, but our NWA champion. Ric Flair doesn't have to flex his muscles and pose in the ring. He wrestles. And for many people, that was the most important difference at all. Of all. Let me reread that. You know, most of the World Wrestling Federation wrestlers, Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper included, were once with the NWA. Hogan is very muscular, but our NWA champion, Ric Flair, doesn't have to flex his muscles and pose in the ring. He wrestles. And for many people, that was the most important difference of all. I had to reread that a second time so I understood it better and so you can understand it better. There we have it, fans. Another episode of Story Time here on Chaos Corner for Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. An unbelievable book. the death of the territories. There's nothing like it. I continue to review it here on the channel. I can't thank you guys and gals enough for being here. We kept it under an hour. I'll continue to push out original content covering history, story time, this date in pro wrestling history, live to tape watch alongs, chaos clips, the classics, talk shows, dinner for two with the wife. Go over to the shorts on my channel and you'll see my entire family, especially my granddaughter. We have a lot of family fun. It really is incredible. Over 5,000 videos on this channel. Well over 1 million total views. Nobody works harder for you than I do. And again, much love and respect to everyone that pops in here. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This is what I do out of motivation and passion. This is who I am until the day I die. The old man brand. The over 50, the over 60 demo god. Not only do I want you to follow me here on the YouTube channel, follow me over on X, aka Twitter, at Big Daddy GOC. It's not toxic if you don't use it that way. It's a good way to reach, promote, advertise, communicate. Trust me when I tell you, get an account on X. You'll find out a lot that the mainstream won't tell you, especially in the world of pro wrestling. So follow me over there. Follow me here. Over on Facebook, I have 2 accounts to get to know me more personally. One where I promote all the indies and especially my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Follow me on Facebook at JBrony, just like it sounds for all you jabronis. J Brony. And of course, if you want to be a little more personal with the GOC, follow my personal account at Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian to really get to know more about me, because I'm not hard to find. Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. Those 2 accounts are on Facebook. You want to email me, get in touch with me. Fan Mail Friday is always available. Email me. I have 2 addresses. The first one, Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2 at yahoo.com. That's right, all one word, small caps. Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2 at yahoo.com. My second account, Chaos Big Daddy, the number 11 at Gmail. One word, small caps. Chaos Big Daddy 11 at gmail.com. Send something in. We're having a raffle. I'm giving away Hall of Fame 8x10 glossies of yours truly. This photo right here from the class of 2019 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Request and you shall receive. Get me your address and I'll get it out to you. I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. Wait for it. Austin, Tribal Queen, don't you dare miss it.